Hello, hello, hello. My name is Samantha Francis, FemmePOWER educator and your favorite no-nonsense mentor. Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and I thought I'd be a little bit sassy because if you know me, then you know that I can be quite sassy at times, appropriate times. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of sass into today's video. And I wanted to talk about the 18 ways to stay stuck and unhappy. So I'm going to give you 18 top tips of things to do if you want to be miserable, stuck, unhappy, and lacking in joy. And then right at the end, I am going to give you some other tips that will support you with potentially not doing that. Okay, so let's start with tip number one. I want to get straight into this because I know you're all very busy and I like watching short videos, so I assume you do too. So number one, the best way to stay stuck and unhappy is to start tomorrow. Better still, start on Monday. So if there's anyone listening here that is I'm going to start on Monday lady, I want you to know this. But every time we say we're going to start tomorrow or we're going to start on Monday, we're essentially saying, I'm prepared to delay the process of change. I'm prepared to stay in this situation, even if it's for one day longer. I'm not prepared to make the change. Therefore, I'm not committed to myself. Okay? So that's the number one tip, which is start tomorrow or the next day or the next day after that. Because the truth of the matter is, it's always going to be tomorrow. You'll reach tomorrow and then it'll be, okay, I'm not feeling too great. I'll start tomorrow. You'll reach that day. Okay, I've got a lot on with the kids. I'll start. It's a never-ending story of tomorrows. So we want to rein that in and we want to say, actually, can I commit to myself today, even if it's doing a little bit of something, and actually maybe even asking the question, am I ready to commit to change at all? As in, is this current situation that I'm in painful enough for me to do anything about it? Number two, and again, all of these top tips comes from being in this industry, working with women for over 15 years and seeing patterns of behavior. So number two, overconsume and take no action. So who is guilty potentially of going from course to course, free resource to free resource, YouTube videos to YouTube videos, loads of different mentors, loads of different stuff you're consuming and learning and everything, but actually you're not taking any action from it because there's so many people out there like that, right? Like you'll have all the books, all the stuff, but the truth of the matter is, you see, I hear this so often, it's like knowledge is power, when actually, no, it's not. Knowledge is power if you choose to use the knowledge. But if you don't, you stay stuck. Knowledge is power when we implement action from that knowledge. So if we learn something new, but yet we keep doing the same things, we keep making the same excuses, we keep or even reasons, masters excuse, we keep doing the same stuff. Where does the change happen? It doesn't. We can't place the be all and end all on a book or on a course. Like that in itself, it's not going to be the game changer. What's going to be the game changer is you taking the information and actually doing something with it. So that's the second golden nugget there to stay stuck and unhappy. Number three, you take advice from people who keep you stuck and are stuck themselves. In other words, you're listening to people that actually are not doing the things that you're doing or haven't had the balls to do the things that you want to do and actually are in their own template, their own box, their own way of living, and are supporting you in staying small too. Things like, oh, you don't want to do that. You know, let's just say you want to start a business. You don't want to do that. You know, stick with the 9 to 5. It's safer. It's safer to just do that, because then you get consistent money coming in every month. You know, or, you know, yeah, I heard entrepreneurship is really tough. You know, are you sure you want to do this? This is why I've stayed in my job for so, things like that. Be very mindful of who you are speaking to and also who you're taking advice from. I personally would not be taking, let's say, relationship advice from someone that has been single for years or has a history of repeated patterns of abusive men. I just wouldn't, because if I'm going to learn from anyone or take advice from anyone, it will be someone ideally that's in a happy, healthy relationship and or has overcome repeated patterns and created the change that they need to create a happy, healthy life. So, you know, I would be very mindful of that. However, if you want to stay stuck and unhappy, then keep listening to those people. Number 4, choosing a partner who just doesn't support you and doesn't get it. This is a really common thing I hear a lot with clients, where they complain about their partner's not supporting them or putting them down and all the things you hear. And maybe you're going through it too, you know. And for so many women, they're wanting more, but they feel they need their partner, their spouse, to support them with that. And often with women, we feel guilt, you know, oh God, should I be wanting more? You know, it's upsetting my partner. He doesn't get it. He's worried now. He's stressed out by the finances. You know, should I even be trying to push myself and expand myself? You know, it's a tough one if you are in a relationship like that at the moment. But what I also always say to women is, number one, if you're not in a relationship already, just make sure whoever that you're choosing to be with, because you always get to choose, is someone that maybe even if they don't get it, still supports you and still wants you to shine and expand and is absolutely, you know, supportive of your growth. So that would be the one thing that I would say for someone that is single. For someone that's in a relationship, it's a tough one depending on the relationship. But I always say, you know, this is your baby, this is your business. And if you're in a partnership that you're choosing to stay in, where your partner is not supportive of you, maybe, you know, puts you down a bit, puts what you're doing down a little bit, you know, which isn't great, and is essentially sucking the life out of you, I would be looking into, are they actually pushing buttons that are already an insecurity there? Because this is your joy, this is your baby. And yes, it's wonderful to have the support of our partner, our friends, and our family, but sometimes that's not reality and we don't have that. So what can you do to ensure that you are in alignment with your mission? So that's number 4, you know, choose a partner that is going to not support you and actually suck the life out of you. Number 5. Now, I'm going to use this word only because people use it. I don't particularly like using this word, fail, and then decide it's just not meant to be. So a good example of this is, I tried this strategy. I tried to put it out there. I've been doing all the things for my business. It's not worked, and I guess it's just not meant to be. I'm being blocked. You know, I'm not meant to be on this pathway. Another good example would be, you know, I've tried relationships. I've gone from one relationship to the next. Relationships just don't work for me. I'm just not meant to be in relationships. I like to use the word experience, because everything is an experience. Okay, I never see myself as failing at anything. Although, you know, many years ago, if we go back around 15 years ago, I would have actually resonated with the word failure, but I don't anymore, because I understand that my experiences back then actually helped form the version of me that I am right now in front of you, able to help all of you. So it's really easy to say, look, I tried and now, and it didn't work, so that means it's done. I'm not meant to do this. And I think it's also really important that we discern intuition with actually just not having the emotional resilience to try again. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're trying again and again and again, and you're doing the same thing, you're getting the same outcome, then yes, there's something that needs to be tweaked energetically and strategically. However, if you try once and it just doesn't work, you haven't tried. You haven't tried. That's all I'm going to say on that. and you will stay stuck and you will stay unhappy. Because if that is your character, to just try something once and then it doesn't work, and then it's like, okay, that's it, it doesn't work for me, it's not for me, then that shows me that that's your character in all areas of your life. And that's going to be a problem, because you're going to try things, it's not going to work, and you're going to still stay stuck and unhappy. Number 6, I've got a list here, by the way, because there's so many and I cannot remember all of them. Spend more time complaining and blaming than actually wanting to be proactive and solving it. So remember, our brains are naturally wired to see danger, to see the negative, to see the problems and things more so than the solution. But when it becomes a habit of complaining on a daily basis or blaming someone or something for your current circumstances, you are in victim mode. And until you choose to change that, you're going to stay there. So I hear this a lot as well, from people, like, they will blame their childhood, their parents, their partner. If you ask people, how are you? They tell you the whole shebang, the whole thing that's been going on. It's like, whoa, okay, I've just asked you how you are, and you've just given me all of this blaming and complaining about people. I think we all know at least someone that does that. But the problem is when you're doing that, you're sitting in victim energy, and actually you're not solving or changing anything. You're just sitting in that horrible energy that feels horrible, and you're trapped. You can be absolutely encased in it until you decide to do something different. So let's see. Here's a common one, a really common one I've seen over the years. So you invest in yourself, and then you see a little bit of change at the beginning. If you're working with a mentor that is the right fit for you, of course, you assume the work is done, and then you withdraw your investment thinking you can do it alone, or you don't need to do any more work. Really, really common. So I've had this experience myself with many years ago with clients, where within the first few weeks, we've seen significant change with my clients, and that's something that I'm very, very proud of. But I've also had people in the past say, right, okay, well, I think I'm pretty much good here now, and I don't think I need any more sessions, or I'm not going to continue going, forward with this. I've got what I need. At that point, it's never my point to convince anyone to stay with me, just like I wouldn't convince anyone in a relationship to stay with me. At that time, I'm quite happy to know that I'm working with adults and they can make their own informed decision. However, as the expert and as someone that is very good at reading, in fact, it's my expertise, reading energy and feeling into things, I always know when somebody has reached the place for them to go it alone, and I will never choose to work with them at that point because I know they can. But I can also see when somebody's not ready to do it alone. And something that's really common is, like I say, clients come in, oh, I got what I needed, I see some changes, I don't need to invest anymore. They go off, and then a few months down the line, as I'll already know it will happen, they will come back and say, look, I'm really struggling, because the truth is you're going to go through peaks and troughs in your healing journey or your self-development journey. And it's wonderful to have those days where it's like, yes, I feel great. I've had these light bulb moments. This has happened. I've taken action. This is great. But the truth of the matter is, until you reach a certain level of steadiness, emotional mastery, and embodiment, it would be foolish to bail on yourself so early on. Okay, so that's a good way of staying stuck and unhappy, because when you're on your own again, it's like, I'm facing this stuff. I don't actually have the tools or know what to do to deal with it because I didn't stay in this long enough, in this investment long enough. Now, what do I do? Right, number 8, expect miracles overnight, or just expecting someone to come in and save you without you doing a thing. Again, this is another reinforcement on expecting miracles from courses, expecting miracles from, mentors and coaches and your partner or your best friend. And it's like, you have to put in some effort and some work, and you have to be consistent with it. I say this to my clients all the time. You come and do a course, that's education, and for some it will lead to amazing results. But essentially, you need the embodiment piece to be living a life that you love, and to be able to hold that energy and to have the tools and the resources and the accountability to be able to navigate life as well. And if you are just relying on things like self-study courses or your partner to do the work, it's just so disempowering, and it's never going to get you where it is you want. I hear it a lot from people, not my people or clients or anyone, but I just hear it in the industry. I took this course, I didn't get any results, or I did this masterclass, nothing came from it. Well, a lot of the time nothing comes from it because you did nothing. Just saying. Number 9, doing the external work and not the internal, the real work. So I see this a lot as well, and it's a normal human thing to do. It's like if something is happening in our reality, we want to change it, we want to stop it. So we'll do the things to stop what's going on externally, but then a little bit later on down the line, you find yourself in a very similar position or a different situation, but there's similarities there, there's patterns repeating, and it's like, okay, I'm going to do whatever, I'm going to leave this relationship, I'm going to leave this job. You go further down the line, a very similar thing happens again. Why? Because actually the common factor in all of those things is you, and how you're showing up or not showing up for yourself, or what you're tolerating or not tolerating for yourself. So it's really easy to do the external stuff because it's easy well, it's not easy, but it's easier to walk away from a job. It's easier to move house. It's easier to leave a relationship than actually sitting with yourself and asking yourself, well, actually, where am I not in alignment with the life I want to lead? Because your reality is your capacity. Your reality is an external mirror of what's going on within, right? So where am I maybe not at the confidence level that I need to be, where I can start making different moves, bolder moves, and expand? These questions are so important, but the action is, if anything, more important than that, because we can all have light bulb moments, we can all have those epiphanies, but what do you do with them? So yeah, changing the external, much easier than going internally, much easier than sitting with your pain, but that is what the game changer will be. Number 10, connected with number 9, avoiding discomfort and feeling your emotions. And this is a big one, especially for women, because we have so many plates to juggle. I'm a mum, I'm a partner, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a teacher, I'm a spiritual and emotional wellness mentor, I'm a FemmePOWER educator, I run different businesses. Like, there's so many different plates to juggle. But at the end of the night, I genuinely just want to close my eyes and sleep. I do, and the thought, many, many years ago, the thought of actually creating time and space to sit down and journal and write down even how I'm feeling, it felt like too much of an effort. It really did. And that's exactly at a point in my life where I was stuck and really unhappy. And I had misaligned relationships, and I was just so depressed because, again, I was doing a lot of the outside stuff, but I wasn't doing the inside stuff. I wasn't actually sitting with myself and saying, actually, are you happy? Are you actually happy? And until I actually sat with myself and I asked myself these very basic but important questions, and actually sat and felt into myself, like, no, I feel really sad. And actually, no, I don't like my relationship. When I have one-to-one clients, what we do is a special framework where we look at all the different areas of their life, and we analyze them, and we do a special strategic method that gets them to really see what's really going on and to be really real with themselves about it. And that's where we know what underlying stories are being played out, and that's where we know what areas we need to pinpoint. But essentially, one of the most basic things we can do is just sit with ourselves and just really be honest and ask ourselves how we're feeling. And that can be whilst you're having a cup of coffee, whilst you're drinking a cup of tea, or whatever, and just really be like, how am I really? We ask people this all the time. How are you? But how often do we ask ourselves that? And the thing is, when you touch base with yourself on a regular basis, it raises your emotional intelligence because you are recognizing emotions and you're learning to navigate them. Obviously, if you need extra support with that, you know I am, or anyone else that you feel drawn to. But, when you raise your emotional intelligence, honestly, your quality of life will, I'll try not to swear, it will change dramatically. Okay. So a good way of staying stuck and unhappy is not feeling your emotions, not resonating with yourself, not tuning in or touching base. Number 11, accepting the bare minimum or mediocre behavior. And again, this is a really common thing that I experienced myself, for many years, just accepting whatever. Oh, he's nice. He doesn't have a job, but he buys me flowers. That's enough, I guess. Get standards. Get standards. So when we work together with myself and my clients, we look at the values, we look at their non-negotiables, we look at their standards, we look at their boundaries, because we are not taught these things, and when you have standards, you have a real intolerance to anything that drops below it. But what I always say as well is when you have standards, you must embody those standards too. Don't be walking around and saying, hey, he has to have this, she has to do this, da 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 da, this has to happen, and you are below your own set of standards. You have to at least be above your own standards, okay? So another great way of staying stuck and unhappy is to accept the bare minimum. And again, that comes from a space of low worth, and that is also an area that can be improved if you choose to, of course. Number 12, breaking promises to other people and yourself. Now, I just want to put a bit of a disclaimer on this one, okay? Obviously, if you're sick or, things happen in life, we have to break promises sometimes, But if you are regularly doing this, it's a problem, and it's actually massively showing yourself a real lack of respect to other people, but more importantly to yourself. Because if you're promising yourself, like, I'm going to start this workout this evening or tomorrow, and you then go and give yourself a reason, which is actually an excuse to not to do it, I would really invite you to sit down and feel how that feels when you do that. I remember many years ago, I had a client that I really wanted to help, and I offered this client a discounted rate of one of my self-study courses. So again, if you don't know, I've got loads of self-study courses based on emotions and relationships, conscious parenting, inner child work, Reiki, all the stuff, right? And I gave it to her a discounted price. It was really, really low, but I really wanted to help this person because she was in a really kind of low place in her life and with her children and things like that. So anyway, she asked if she could pay in 2 parts. That was fine. She paid the first half. That was fine. And it took me months to get any communication around the second payment. Bear in mind, the second payment was less than £50. When she did respond back about it, it was like, oh, I've decided I don't really need this. I'm not going to, I don't really want that, so I'm not going to pay the second half. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was not impressed by that, because my value is to lead with integrity and respect for others. And my mission is to support women with being accountable and responsible for themselves, more so than anything else. And that was not okay with me. And so I had to politely remind her of the verbal agreement that we had made and the kindness that I had shown to try and help her, for her to then turn around. It wasn't even the case that she didn't have the money. She had the money. She made that clear. She was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I had to say, well, look, I expect payment by so-and-so date. And lo and behold, she did pay. Did not work with that client again. That was an absolute no-no and a massive red flag for me. But, breaking promises to yourself and other people on a regular occasion is icky energy, and it's not great. It's also it falls into victim energy as well, and that again is what keeps you stuck and unhappy. All right, number 13, you wait for things to be just right and just perfect, right? So I hear this a lot as well, like, oh yeah, I'm just going to wait for this to happen because then I can do it. Or I'm just going to wait until I make the move or we move house and stuff and then I'll do it. It's like, you know, if you are waiting for things to always be perfect or always be the right conditions, you are going to struggle because life is going to happen. And what happens when the conditions are not perfect for you? What happens when life throws you a curveball and it's like, oh my God, you know, will you crumble? Will you buckle under that? You know, there's never going to be, you know, a perfect moment where you can go forward with success. You know, if you're waiting for that moment, then you're going to be waiting a long time. And essentially, you're procrastinating and stopping yourself from reaching where it is actually you want to go. Because what happens, you know, when things aren't as great in life, will you then be unsuccessful? Will you then stop? Well, you know, what happens then? So yeah, you want to stay stuck and unhappy, keep waiting for the right time for things to be perfect because there's no such thing. Number 14, do what everyone else is doing, just copy them. And I see this a lot, especially for those of you that don't know, I also have a psychic intuitive reading academy where we run courses, training, certified courses training you in Reiki and how to actually be a professional intuitive reader. And something that I see a lot in that community is people that read in a very similar way, using the same language, using the same tone of voice, you know. And a lot of the time, I'm going to be really honest with you, they are copying people that are not very successful at what they do and not very good at what they do, if I'm honest with you. They are copying people that are broke. You know, if you're going to do anything, you take bits, you know, you learn from mentors, you learn from wherever you're learning from. You take the pieces that resonate, that feel good for you, but you never lose your identity because the minute you start doing that, you stay stuck. You'll stay stuck and you'll most probably be heading in the wrong direction as well. Number 15, good way to stay stuck and unhappy is focusing more on motivation or doing your best instead of having the discipline to do what you need to do. And we don't hear this a lot when we're speaking about women and emotions and things like that, but it needs to be said. And if you've been in my audience for a while, you'll know I am an absolute supporter of discipline for women because all too often we are too airy-fairy sometimes. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love my feminine aspects, but I also have a badass masculine as well. That comes out when I work. But you know, we're kind of driven with motivation, or I feel like doing this, or I'll try, and you know, all of these things, and it's so half-assed energy. It says to me that they're not committed, you know. And if you're a client of mine, you'll also know that I say, don't ever tell me you'll try. That word needs to be eradicated from your vocabulary. Tell me you're going to do it. Tell me you can do it, because that is a bold statement of commitment. And you know, motivation dips. Like women, we are cyclical creatures. There'll be points in the month where we will be so motivated, so pumped, and there'll be points in the month where we're just flatlining and just want to hide under a duvet. We've got to have the discipline to do stuff that maybe we don't really want to do, but actually we look at it properly, it'll be those steps that take us closer to what we want. So hey, you know, I'm not going to lie, I don't want to work out as often as I do, but I know that when I do it, I am one step closer to how I want to feel or how I want to look. And actually, I never regret a workout. I always feel much more energized after. So if I relied on motivation alone to do it, I don't think you'd see me working out as often as I do. What I rely on is my discipline and my commitment to myself. So if you want to stay stuck and unhappy, rely solely on motivation. Number 16, let's have a look. Engage in repeated patterns despite seeing the same red flags. Another common one. So let's use relationships as an example. You know, you see red flags in a person, you choose to ignore them, live in hope and think that everything's going to be okay. We've all been there, myself included. And lo and behold, the relationship falls apart because of those red flags usually. And then you go into another one and it's the same thing again, and another one, and it's the same thing. All of a sudden, you just can't find any good men out there. Well, the thing is that you're choosing them. You're choosing not so great men that are not compatible. Despite seeing the red flags, you keep doing the same thing. There's an issue going on there, and that's what's keeping you stuck, and that's what's keeping you feeling really deflated around that particular area. And that could be the same for jobs as well. It could be the same for clients. It could be the same for anything. Essentially, you're seeing the same stuff, but you're still engaging with it. Number 17, you start something, you just don't follow it through. Again, over consuming again, and then starting new things as well. That you see, when you're starting something new, it all feels fresh, you know, like fresh light, exciting energy. And again, that's motivation. And then a few days or weeks into it, it starts to dip, and then you lose interest, and then it's like, oh, what's over there, you know. If you keep starting things and not completing them, and it's the same thing with self-development, like a couple of points that I made earlier on, you start seeing a bit of results. Oh, it's okay, I don't need to do this anymore. You're never actually going to see the full capacity of what can happen in terms of your transformation, and you're bailing on yourself again. And that's what keeps you stuck and unhappy. Right, and the last one. You don't get the support that you need from an expert. That will keep you stuck and unhappy because you think you can do it yourself. But the problem is with that is that you have been doing it yourself thus far and you're still not happy. So at some point, it has to reach a place where you're like, okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to speak to? What other action do I need to take? Who do I need to learn from? And get it. I myself have done this, and I hear it from so many people as well. We spent so much time, money, energy, investments in people, thinking that, like I say, it was going to be the miracle. You're going to get the thing, and but they're often, when you're depending on what state you're coming from in your current situation, it actually requires you to really take a deep step back and make an informed decision about what it is you want to achieve in your life, and then finding an expert that specializes in it. So, for example, if you wanted someone to support you with your spirituality or expanding your gifts, you would find someone that does that. You wouldn't be going to someone that does strategy for business. Find the right mentor, but also find an expert that you connect with and that you vibe in. I connect with mentors and experts that are maybe mums themselves, that understand what it's like to be a single mum, that understand what it's like to have other commitments but still be doing the thing anyway. Those are the women that I look up to, because they're not giving excuses. They're teaching me how to still get what I want, even with my circumstances like that. So find an expert that will support you with going from A to B. If you know that you bail on yourself a lot, if you know that you don't really commit or follow through with stuff, you want to go with someone that actually is not going to give you they're there, it's okay, I understand, it happens all the time. Your friends can give you that. You want to go to the person that's like, why haven't you done that? You want to go to the person that's like, okay, you've given me your reason or whatever, now let's go and do it. The person that holds you accountable. Because the thing is, we're not taught how to commit to ourselves. We're not taught how to be accountable. We're not taught what our values are. We're not taught what, these things that we need for life, we are not taught in school, and your parents won't teach you that, because 9 times out of 10, they weren't taught that. So it's about taking a real step back and looking at where it is in your life that you want to change. But again, if you choose not to get the expert support in some way or another, then you will stay stuck and unhappy. And to just give you one massive tip, just to wrap up this whole video, if you don't want to stay stuck and unhappy, do the opposite of the points. The 18 points you have there, go and do the opposite. That's all you have to do. Because the truth of the matter is, nobody likes staying stuck and unhappy and miserable. But we all have different points of where enough is enough. We all have different levels of pain tolerance. And it won't be until you reach that place of like, this is unbearable now, I'm actually willing to get uncomfortable and actually create again. and actually do things differently and relearn and unlearn. And yes, that may feel a little arduous and maybe a lot of effort, but actually I'm in so much pain right now, I'm willing to do it, that you will go and make the change. Okay. So I hope that was helpful in some way. Yes, I know it's very tongue in cheek. Yes, I know it's a little bit sassy, but that's just who I am, okay, at times. And remember, you don't have to stay stuck and unhappy. You can actually change your life. You are responsible for your life. And because of that, it's so beautiful because you get what you want, but you have to do things in a way that works for you. So I hope that helps you all today. And if you have any questions, if you need any support, any guidance and whatever, just pop me a message. You can get through to me on Facebook, on my website. All the details will be shared as well. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye-bye.